Howdy everyone, and welcome to the next lesson on Romeo and Juliet. And we're going to be looking at Act 3, Scene 2. So after the fight, after Romeo has been banished, we are going to be looking at how Juliet is coping with waiting for Romeo to fulfill his duties as her husband. So start our activity then. Why might Juliet be disappointed in her relationship with Romeo so far? So think about how much interaction they've had. Think about how much interaction they've had since their wedding, and think about what's about to happen and what she's about to discover, that has happened to Romeo and her cousin. Why might she be disappointed in her relationship with Romeo so far? Pause the video to answer that question. Okay, so the answer, something that you might have come up with, is that Juliet is disappointed because she's not really got any to spend any time with her new husband. Um, Obviously, at the time, it would have been often that women didn't really meet their husband until after the wedding. But even so, for Juliet, she's barely spent any time with him after the wedding as well. So, having time with your husband to have the intimate moment is something that is important then and it is important now as well. And she just hasn't had that. So let's have a look at her speech and what we'll be looking at today. Act 3, Scene 2. Come, gentle knight, come, loving black-browed knight, give me my Romeo. And when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun. Oh, I have bought the mansion of a love, but not possessed it, and, though I am sold, not yet enjoyed. So tedious is this day, and is the night before some festival to an impatient child that has new robes and may not wear them. Oh, here comes my nurse, and she brings news, and every tongue that speaks but Romeo's name speaks heavenly eloquence. So she's talking about here how she feels about Romeo, and we're gonna break this down in just a second. But the main gist of it is that she wants the attention of her new husband. She wants his love. She wants to find him, and when he dies, he wants. I think she's speaking perhaps to God, where she wants him to be cut up into little stars so that everybody can get to enjoy him. And then the nurse comes in, gives her the bad news, but we're not going to be looking at that part just yet. All right, so first quotation. Come, gentle knight, come, loving, black-browed knight, give me my Romeo. So she's speaking about here, the black-browed knight suggests that even the night is miserable, and yet it's loving at the same time. She's demanding from the evening to give her Romeo. And when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun. It was often at the time that people used to almost worship the sun because of what it gave to people. And she's saying here, if we cut him up into little stars and throw him into the sky, people will respect him as the night sky rather than the sun. What's interesting here, though, is probably at the time they wouldn't have known that the sun was a star, so there's a lack of scientific understanding here, perhaps on Shakespeare's part. But she's saying, cut him up into little stars. She's speaking in metaphor here. Cut him out in little stars, and he shall make the face of heaven, the representation of heaven. That is how strongly she feels about her new husband. Garish means excessive and over the top. All right. Oh, I have bought the mansion of a love, but not possessed it, and though I am sold, not yet enjoyed. She speaks here of a mansion of love. She has a massive house of love, but she doesn't really truly own it. She's bought it, but she doesn't own it. She doesn't get to live in it. And although she's sold, which is an interesting metaphor here, she sees herself as sold to Romeo. She's been not yet enjoyed. She sees herself as an object to be enjoyed by men, which is actually in contrast to some of her more independent thoughts that she has earlier on in the play. Here, she's speaking much more that she's a belonging of Romeo and that she's sold to him. Her love is sold to him, and she's not being enjoyed by him. Okay, next. Oops. Okay. So tedious is this day, as is the night before some festival, to an impatient child that has new robes and may not wear them. So she uses this simile here, as in the night before a festival when a kid has had new clothes and they can't wear them the next day. She speaks quite frivolously here. She speaks very as if all she cares about are objects. So she's talking about things. She's talking about a child being disappointed because they're not able to show off their new clothes. It's quite materialistic, actually, hence the picture that I chose here from Clueless. So she's being very materialistic, but perhaps she's just being metaphorical with this simile in terms of how she feels. She kind of feels like a child who's been disappointed because she doesn't get to show off. Okay, next. Every tongue that speaks but Romeo's name speaks heavenly eloquence. So anyone that's talking about Romeo is speaking in a heavenly way, of heavenly beauty. So she respects him almost to an exaggerated extent. If you ever see the word "but" like that, don't panic because it doesn't change the meaning of it. It's mostly Shakespeare trying to fit into the da-dum 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 da-dum, which we'll talk about in another lesson. Okay, but Romeo's name speaks heavenly eloquence. Okay, so we're going to look at now some of the topics then that she kind of covers. So, firstly, the most obvious one is that she has the language of the stars. She speaks about the black browed night, how the night is miserable. She speaks of him being cut out into little stars and him being the face of heaven, and that um, anyone who says his name has heavenly eloquence. So, these four quotations are clear links to how she feels about him. That she's speaking about stars and she used these metaphors in order to represent her feelings. So she speaks about the stars in terms of fate, you could argue. It could be that she's speaking about stars because they're untouchable. You could speak about stars because they're beautiful and magical and inexplicable. Okay. What else does she do? So she has the language of disappointment then. Oh, I have bought the mansion of a love, but not possessed it, and though I am sold, not yet enjoyed. She's disappointed because she hasn't been enjoyed. Now that verb enjoyed could mean just being enjoyed, like spending time with him, but more likely is that she wants to have sex with Romeo and she's unable to. So she's bought the mansion of a love, but she's not possessed it. She's disappointed, and then she speaks about the disappointed child having new clothes and not being able to wear them. Okay, so then your task. Okay, I would like you to explain how does Shakespeare present Juliet's feelings about her new relationship in Act 3, Scene 2. And I want you to really consider the use of sky language and her disappointment. So, how does Shakespeare present Juliet's feelings about her new relationship in Act 3, Scene 2? Okay, so pause the video to answer this and spend about 20-25 minutes answering this question of how does Shakespeare present her feelings about her new relationship. Think about her disappointment, think about her language of the stars, and think about more generally how she's speaking. She's speaking positively, she's speaking negatively. Don't forget to mention language features. Don't forget to discuss detailed interpretations. Don't forget to speak about how the audience react. And don't forget to speak about what Shakespeare is trying to show us about love. Okay? Pause the video, 20-25 minutes. This is the only activity for this lesson. Thank you guys. Speak to the next one.